Hello and welcome again to another lesson in Bible Maths. Today we'll be looking at perimeter or circumference of a circle. That's very important, and we'll be touching on the different parts of the circle. We'll also be looking at the formula that helps us to find the circumference of the circle, and we'll be looking lastly at some actual examples how you find the circumference or perimeter of the circle. So, as usual, we're going to start off with the reading of God's word. So, Jesus now in John 2:12, it says that, and the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting there. So we're going to expect something miraculous in this lesson today. What is the connection with some of the things that Jesus saw in that temple? What is the connection with math concerning the relevance of the Jews' Passover? I'm glad you asked. So, just to remind you, the Jews' Passover, and I got it from Wikipedia, it's right here, is also called Pesach or Pesach, is a major Jewish holiday. So it was a Jewish holiday that celebrates the biblical story of the Israelites escape from slavery in Egypt. Remember that story with Pharaoh? So when they escape that slavery in Egypt, they had to flee for their lives. We are also told that it occurs on the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, the first month of Aviv or spring. Now, picture this, the Israelites escaping from Egypt, being chased by Pharaoh's army. And perhaps what you are seeing here, this picture here, reminds us of that scene. Now, where does the math come? Where does the math come in there? We're talking about perimeter of a circle. Are you seeing any circles in that diagram? Yes. Look at the wheel. That's a circle. So the above picture shows a picture of a Roman soldier similar to one who chased after the Israelites. So when you look further at his bow, are you seeing how it is bent? Let's look at it closely. I am seeing his bow and it's bent in the shape of what we call an arc. Here it is. That's the arc right there. And it's bent like that. So if you have two lines and a nice curve there, that seems to be a bow, there's the arrow. So this part of the bow, the actual wooden or metal part, is called the arc. And when you look at the entire shape itself, that is known as the sector of a circle. So we're going to be meeting those terms. So the bow and the string is the shape of the sector. That's part of a circle. And remember, it resembles a slice of a pizza or a cake. So that's the sector of the circle. And when you examine the actual wheel of the chariot, let's look at it. I'm seeing, wow, I'm seeing a lot of sectors here. There's one right there. That's a sector. There's another one right there. That's a sector. So when you look at a bicycle wheel or a car wheel, it is made up of many sectors, forming the whole, which is the circle. So maybe it might be a good idea to start off with a definition of what is the circumference of a circle and the distance around, the total distance around the circle, which we know is a measure of the perimeter of the circle. That is what we call the circumference. And of course, we know a wheel is an example of a circle. Usually we use the letter C for circumference. So let's examine in a little more detail different parts of a circle. Very, very important. So you have the radius, and that's a line drawn from the center, touching one point on the circle, any point on the circle from the center. The length of that line is called the radius. We met the word sector just now, and it's like a slice of a cake or pizza. That's the sector of the circle. Notice the sector of the circle is formed by one line coming from here. That's one radius. Are you seeing that? And then you have another radius. So the sector is really formed by plural of radius is radii, two radii. And once you have two radii and you are connecting part of that circle, which we call the arclet, then the enclosed shape, the entire thing is called the sector. Now, let's distinguish sector from segment. What's the difference? When you form a segment, you are actually not directly passing through the center of the circle. So once you draw a line touching any 2 points not passing through the center of the circle, and you block off or shade off that portion there, what you have is called a segment or piece of the circle. And this is my favorite part, the arc. We met that term just now. That is just part of the circumference of the circle. That is called your arc. Notice that you must be able to distinguish between what is known as your minor arc. Let's pull on this a bit if we can. And your major arc. So let's make that distinction here. The minor versus the major arc. Right. Now, what is the minor arc? First to begin, the entire circle, the entire circumference of the circle, the first part in this diagram here that is drawn in green, the bigger arc, so to speak. Are you seeing that? This is a longer distance, and therefore it is called the major arc. So once you have, and you're comparing two parts of the circumference, once you have the longer distance along the circumference, that part corresponds to the major arc of the circle. And of course, in black, you have the shorter part of the circumference, and that is called your minor arc. Another part of the circle which you'll meet in your study may be the tangent of the circle. So if you draw a line just touching the circumference of that circle, that line is called a tangent. And notice the tangent will cut the circle All right, it will cut the circle, not cut rather, sorry, it will touch the circle. Right, your circle will be better than mine at a particular point. Right, so that's the point it's touching. That circle only touches at one point, and the line is what we call the tangent, as we just saw there. What's another part of the circle? Well, we saw the segment just now, and the line touching 2 points on the circumference. That line is called the chord. Notice a diameter is a special type of chord, but the diameter passes through the center of the circle. The diameter, and let's call diameter D, or sometimes written as capital D, is always 2 times the radius. So if you know the radius is 4 centimeters, then we expect the diameter, which is 2 times the radius, to be 8 centimeters, 2 by 4. And of course, the focus today is on the entire circumference or perimeter of the circle. How do we find that? And I'm glad you asked that question. So maybe it's a good idea to go straight into our formula. How do you find the circumference of the circle? But before we get into that, what did Jesus do when he entered the temple and he saw those persons in there buying and selling and trading? It says in John 2:15, and when he had made a scourge of small cord, it's like a whip, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. So he got upset. He got upset, quite understandably so. Jesus got upset when he saw all of that. But where does the mark comes in? You saw the word table here in the scripture, right? And who knows, maybe he made a, what they call it here, a scourge of small cords. So who knows, maybe at the end of these little cords here, we had some little circles. So let's focus on the word table. If you look at a table, and let's see if we can bring our picture right here. I'm sure you would have seen circular tables. There's one right here. I'm sure you would have seen circular tables. So let's compare. If you look at the top of this circular table, it will resemble a circle. And we may be asked to find the circumference of this circle. And there's a formula that we can use. It's written right here. Circumference C is 2 times pi multiplied by the radius. Now, the circumference C, since 2 times pi is your diameter, is also pi multiplied by the diameter. So whichever formula you want to use to find circumference of the circle, you can do so. Most times, pi is taken as 22/7, so that's the number you put in there. Or if the question asks you to use an approximate value for pi, we can use 3.14. 22/7 is 3.14, rounded to 2 decimal places. Now, one thing we should notice that if we were to measure all the way around the circle from the center, we will get the total as 360 degrees. And one complete turn where you begin your measure is or forms a circle, and that is also known as one complete turn. And the word they use for that is revolution. One complete turn or revolution, right? So no 360 degrees is the total measure at that point in the circle. So let's practice how we find the circumference of the circle. So that's the formula right there for you. Circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, or c is equal to pi multiplied by diameter right here. Okay, let's highlight it. I'm going to try it again. Here it is. Here it is. So remember those two formulas. So we see circles all around us. We saw the possibility of a circular table inside the temple where Jesus may have been. The shape of a cake can also be in the form of a circle. The bracelet that you wear, or some people wear around their 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 um their hands, that could be, or foot, that could be in the form of a circle. That's what we see in here. The wheel of a bicycle or the chariot can also be in the form of a circle with your sectors and so on. So let's calculate some. Let's say, for example, that that cake up there, the radius of that cake, let's take the first one. Calculate the circumference of a circle, right, with diameter. And let's take the first one here, 14 centimeter. So remember we said you can use this formula here, pi by d. So if they tell us diameter is 14 centimeter, and they want us to find the total distance, let's say that's the cake there. The diameter of that cake is 14 centimeter. From across it is 14 centimeter. Then if we take pi as 22/7, then the circumference would be 22/7 multiplied by 14. 7 into 7, 1. 14 can be divided by 7 twice. So the total distance across around that cake, the perimeter, would be 22 by 2, which would be 44 centimeters. And that's how we find circumference. Let's take another one where we are asked to find the circumference if we given the radius. So let's calculate the circumference of this coin. Back in the days, the Greek used the coin which is called the drachma. And let's work out this one. Let's say the radius, I'm just using some arbitrary numbers. Let's say the radius is 4.2. You know, that's very big, but I mean, well, yes, it is too big for a coin, right? But let's just work the number all the same. Circumference, this time we are given radius, so it's easier to use this formula, 2 pi r. And if r is 4.2, let's work it. So we taken pi as 22/7. Circumference would be 2 multiplied by 22/7 multiplied by 4.2. So let's see how we can work this. Maybe we can get the help of our calculator, right? And I'm going to take 22. I'm going to divide that by 7 equal, right? Are you seeing it? 3.14. Yeah, that's our pi. Rounded to 2 decimal places. I'm going to multiply that by 2. And then that answer, I'm going to multiply it by 4.2. So multiply this by 4.2. And the circumference will be 26.4 centimeters. Right? And that will be the answer. So I think we have gotten an appreciation of the circumference or perimeter of a circle. And let's quickly recap. That is the total distance around the circle. We also met the different parts of the circle. We met the two different formulas we can use to calculate the circumference of a circle. And then we looked at a couple examples. So thank you so much for taking the time to look at this video. What I would like you to do is to visit the website, and you will see that the topic in our Bible Math series is measurement. And you can visit the website and you will have all the lessons during the course of time in due course will be posted there for you to work through. So this is just one of those lessons. So you can visit us at www.maths123. And there's the circle org. Until then, may God richly bless you. Bye for now.